Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
And I'm Don NEUEN, and this is Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts, when their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
And welcome to Cowboy Logic Radio, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don NEUEN, who is shaking because he just has to blurt out his name at the beginning of every show. He's jerking his head back and forth, trying not to do the aforementioned blurting out of his name. So what are you going to do? Are you not going to say your name, honey?
Hi, I'm Don.
Hi, Don.
Hi, I'm a recovering radio puker.
Hi, Don.
Hi.
Are you okay?
Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Don NEUEN.
It's not going to work. You're not a recovered radio puker. You are a radio puker.
Hi,
There it is.
everybody. I'm Don NEUEN.
No,
Don,
doesn't work.
Don NEUEN.
Does not work. Come on. You can do it.
I'm an excellent talk
It's
show
all
host.
right.
I'm an excellent radio host.
30 minutes to Judge Wapner.
30 minutes to segment 2. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Don NEUEN, and let me be the first to welcome you to this week's riveting episode of Cowboy Logic Radio. Boy, have we got a big show for you.
I can't take it.
Hey, now look, you started
They're Nazis.
You started
All of
last
them.
week with the downer. You started last week with the downer.
That's not a downer. I'm telling you what the Democrats say. They're all Nazis. They've got 3-year-olds in cages. Infants ripped from mommy's breasts. Let's look at some facts here, okay? Most of these kids are 12 to 17 years old. Ugh. But you can't beat them. You shut them
What
down.
are they doing breastfeeding at that age, Donna?
That's what I was thinking.
I don't understand this.
And who is engaged in child abuse but their parents who let them travel 1,300 miles through Mexico? Ugh, it's so
While
frustrating.
I don't understand
standing
why
on the top of trains.
why suckling has anything to do with this. Why are all of these children that the Democrats talking about, why are they all breastfeeding?
Because that
And how
evokes
old-
emotion.
How old does an illegal immigrant have to be to stop breastfeeding,
Is
Donna?
that a question? Is that like a joke?
No, I'm
Okay.
asking the question because clearly, according to all of the liberal politicians, we are ripping these children from the breasts of their mothers.
Because Stormy Daniels didn't work. But Stormy Daniels is going down to the border. Because her and her, what do they call the lawyer?
Stormy Avenatti.
Stormy, the slip and fall Avenatti, are going down to the border. They'll probably have more people following Stormy Daniels around the border than followed Melania Trump last week.
Oh, Stormy, can we see all your tattoos that you've got? Can you show us your tattoos, Stormy? My, what
this is
big
so
pupils you have, Stormy.
ridiculous.
They're massive
Among
and they're
other big
round.
things.
They're huge, Stormy.
Her
Your
pupils?
pupils are absolutely massive.
I'm glad you stipulated you're talking about the pupils.
That's all I ever talk about when I talk
okay.
about that and the massively large size of her forehead.
You know, the thing is,
Let me say that again. That and the massively large size of her forehead.
which doesn't indicate brain capacity.
I don't know.
The thing,
She looks very Cro-Magnon-like.
the missing link. The thing that gets me is Obama did the same thing, but it was okay when Obama did it. Even Johnson, the former DHS chief, actually admitted that the Obama administration did what the Trump administration is doing.
That was
because
actually
they were
a
overwhelmed.
very inspiring interview for me to watch.
I was surprised.
You talking about Johnson, right?
Johnson, yes. He
was chastised by liberals.
I'm sure he was. He was actually acting like a human being. But this is just unbelievable how it's done by Obama, it's done by Trump, and Trump gets lambasted for it. So now we've degenerated down to Maxine Waters, who just is, I mean, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. To me, Maxine Waters is doing even worse.
We want it done now. We're going to insist on it. If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet. Already, you have members of your cabinet that have been booed out of restaurants, who have protesters taking up at their house, who's saying no peace, no sleep. No peace, no sleep. And guess what? We're going to win this battle because while you try and quote the Bible, Jeff Sessions and others, you really don't know the Bible. God is on our side. On the side of the children. On the side of what's right. On the side of what's honorable. On the side of understanding that if we can't protect the children, we can't protect anybody. And so, let's stay the course. Let's make sure we show up wherever we have to show up. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
I found that to be reprehensible. You know, ladies and gentlemen, you may not recall, but Maxine Waters labeled and said that the Tea Party should go to hell.
As far as I'm concerned, the Tea Party can go straight to hell.
This woman is absolutely the most disgusting politician that I'm aware of. She is vile.
We should look up Maxine Waters in The Enemies Within, Trevor Loudon. I believe she's a member of the Communist Party USA as well.
Yeah, you can,
among other
if
things.
you want to pull that up. You know, I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, my view on this whole thing that happened with Sarah Huckabee Sanders this past weekend, I found to be disgraceful. Having said that, I also found that the actions that were taking place, in my opinion, by the owners of the Red Hen restaurant in Lexington, Virginia, are legal actions. Now, there are talking heads that have been on the news that are disagreeing with me, and I am not a lawyer. But it makes sense to me that if you are a privately owned business and you don't accept any tax dollars or subsidies in the form of tax dollars, either local, state, or federal, that you ought to be able to decide who you want to do business with. And I think that this is something that basically the Supreme Court ruled in favor of with regard to the cake makers in, I think it was Colorado. Now, in my opinion, it's bad business. It's bad business to not serve somebody a product that you make because you disagree with their lifestyle, or you disagree with where they're from, or you disagree with their political leanings, or you disagree with who they work for. I think it's stupid business. But the fact of the matter is, they should have the right, as a privately owned and privately run business, to do business with whoever they want. Now, they also should suffer the consequences by those that they have offended. And they should suffer those consequences in the form of either advertisers or patrons or whatever it might be that has to do with the success of their business. I, for one, hope that the Red Hen restaurant goes under because of the amount of bad press and bad business that they've received, and the fact that the only people that will patronize that restaurant now are absolute far-left, idiotic, left-wing individuals. And that's fine. But for us as conservatives to support the cake makers in Colorado and turn around and chastise this woman and her staff that works at the Red Hen Inn, we're being hypocritical. The bottom line is, if you have a privately run business, you ought to be able to do business with whoever you please, and you don't have to do business with those that you don't want to do business with. Let the fair market decide whether you're going to be successful or not.
There is more to this story, though. And that is Sarah Sanders and her husband apparently went home, left the kids with grandma, who went across the street to the restaurant, and these pink pussycat hatted red hen owners followed them across the street and continued to harass them, and also tried to arrange a group to protest where they went to go eat. That's is
over the top.
Unacceptable, totally over the top. And I know that Sarah Sanders is probably not going to sue, but I'd sue their butts off up the wazoo.
Sarah Sanders is not going to do that because she's an absolute class act.
I'm not. I would sue their asses.
And she came from an absolute class act family.
That's true.
That Huckabee family is first rate.
Yep. I would
All right,
sue.
so what did you find out about Maxine Waters?
Page 295 of Trevor Loudon's The Enemies Within. Maxine Waters has enjoyed a long relationship with the Communist Party USA. I knew it. And its numerous front groups, and to a lesser degree with the pro-North Korea Workers' World Party. And this is a huge part of the Democrat Party as well. You notice that as soon as Donald Trump tried to start having any kind of disarmament talks with North Korea, the Democrats and the mainstream media, which is just basically an appendage of the Democrat Party, took North Korea's side and not the side of the United States. It's insanity. It's total insanity at this point.
What else does that go on to say about Maxine?
Just a whole bunch of stuff. She's, but that's the main thing. Member of the Communist Party USA. What else you need to know?
Well, ladies and gentlemen,
her extensive career. She's young. She is one of 13 children.
Well, and mom and dad were real busy, or at least mom was, popping them out of the oven. Now, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. At what point do the actions of Maxine Waters constitute inciting violence?
She should be sanctioned by the Congress. I know Paul Ryan won't do it, but she should be sanctioned. Even Chuck Schumer is sort of trying to distance himself.
Well, a lot of them are walking back on this. A lot of the liberals.
But they
what's his name? Axelrod.
Yeah, but they keep saying, well, it could incite a problem. Hello, we had a problem a year ago. It's called Steve Scalise and Republicans being targeted when they're on a baseball field. The shooter there actually said, are these Republicans, and opened fire on them, okay? And that is what gets me so annoyed. Maxine Waters, I'm sure, has an armed guard. Maxine Waters, folks, lives in a $7 million home.
How did she come up with that?
Exactly. How do you live? And she doesn't live in her district. This $7 million home, I think, is in D.C. This is why we need term limits, because in my opinion, I hate to say it, the voters are too complacent. We need to oust them.
Yeah,
you got term limits for the president. And you know what? George Takei from Star Trek, Mr. Sulu, he's openly gay. He is openly talking out against Donald Trump and talking recently about how Japanese Americans have been interned. First of all, let me just say this, because this is what
Roosevelt.
It was Roosevelt, number one. These were American citizens, number two. And number three is, these are not concentration camps. This is an affront to the Japanese Americans and to the Jewish people that were interned in Nazi concentration camps in Germany. Those Jews were also citizens of Germany. This is insanity. And I think the Democrat Party, just with their Trump derangement syndrome, is losing it.
Isn't it amazing, Donna, that the left wing, especially those that appear on some of these networks like MSNBC and CBS and CNN, they come out and they make these claims about Trump. Number one, he's racist. Have we been able to find one example of Donald Trump being racist?
No, in fact, quite the opposite. Throughout the decades, he's had huge accolades from various organizations,
including Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton,
Muhammad Ali, and the NAACP.
All right, so hold on a second. Now, they also label him to be a Nazi, Hitler-like. Has Donald Trump ever done anything his entire life that would warrant that type of a slanderous comment.
Well, it's all Linsky tactic. You accuse the other people of doing what you're doing. Same with Russian collusion. Same thing.
All right, what about the fact that he hates immigrants?
Yeah, of course.
He married 2 of them.
Yeah, I know.
He married
and the
2
thing
of them.
is, they sit there and they lambaste Melania Trump, who speaks 5 languages, and, because she's legal. That's the bottom line, and she's got an R, or I don't even know if she is a Republican, quite frankly, but she is obviously married to Donald Trump. The thing that gets me is, all Trump is doing is enforcing the laws with immigration that Barack Obama chose not to enforce, but it's the same damn laws that have been there since Bush 1, I believe, okay? And there's a rancher, by the way, I heard this over the weekend, who has 10 miles of border on his ranch. 50,000 people cross that per year. It's unsafe. They found dead bodies, let alone tons of garbage. Where's the environmentalist wacko tree-hugging dingbats on that one? Have you ever seen the border of the U.S. and Mexico? There is more garbage and more crap and more environmental hazards along that border than you could ever sit there and have the EPA try to look after. It's just insanity. Absolute insanity.
Well, a couple of years ago, we interviewed an illegal alien that crossed that border 5 times.
Yeah.
And he was sent back 4 times. And he crossed it again. He sent back, crossed it again, was arrested, sent back. And he was telling us that every time he came across that border, he was carrying 70 to 80 pounds of marijuana.
Dope. Well, how about Time Magazine? How funny is it that the father of this child said, hey, my wife took off. We have 3 other kids back here in Honduras, and she has crossed now twice. There's 20,000 people. From what I gather, the majority of the ones who have crossed in there have done it multiple times. The majority have kids that probably, if they claim to have kids, that probably can't even identify who their parents are because they pair them up. And you cannot tell me.
Who are they breastfeeding?
Well, but the problem is, if these parents are willing to send their minor children 1,300 miles, and you're worrying about the United States having child abuse and separating kids from their parents, these parents are doing it on their own.
Can you imagine what would happen to an American set of parents if they sent their child that was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old on a journey by themselves into another country or 2 or 3 that was like 15, 13, 1,600 miles in distance?
Exactly.
Can you imagine how far under the jail those American parents would be?
Without the kids, they'd be separated. How about this? A 15-year-old from one of these quote-unquote concentration camps wandered off, and they go, well, that's okay because he's older and, that's just what he's allowed to do. If my 15-year-old had walked away, I'd be arrested for child abuse.
I know nothing.
This is unbelievable.
Who was that, Donna?
That was Sergeant Schultz.
Nothing.
Hogan's Heroes.
That's right.
Very good. So let's get to this Mueller thing. Do you know Robert Mueller has 9.2 million documents? The DOJ...
Hey, say that like Austin Powers.
9.2 million documents.
That's a lot of documents,
That's a lot. The DOJ is waiting for some, or I should say Devin Nunes, is waiting for some 50,000 documents from the DOJ.
And what did they tell him, Donna?
Monday night, they said something, late Monday, I was watching Laura Ingraham, and they just got word that we gave you what you asked for. That's what they actually said. I would not be surprised if we're going to start to talk about impeachment of one Rod Rosenstein, because Jeff Sessions, although he has appeared, he's actually shown up in a few places. He's totally washed his hands of this whole thing. Not only says he's recused from everything.
Hey, let me ask you a quick question.
So this is Rod Rosenstein's baby, which is fine. Get him the heck out of there.
Donna Fiducia.
Yeah.
For the past couple of weeks, we've been watching the left-wing media cite the Bible. They'll bring on real left-wing priests and left-wing religious individuals, and they cite the Bible. They've even got some of the anchors and the hosts reading the Bible and citing passages. Can you please tell me where in the Bible it's absolutely fine, or God says that it's okay, or Jesus Christ says that it's okay to abort a living being?
No, I would say that's child abuse. But, yeah.
Where in the Bible does it support that?
It doesn't, and New York State lets you do it last minute. That's unbelievable. Illegal immigration,
New York
by the
State
way.
will allow it when the kid's going to elementary school.
Illegal, well, they're actually talking about after the kid's born, if the parents think it's like not healthy or anything, that in the first couple of minutes.
Lovely.
They basically, that's murder. I'm sorry. It's infanticide if that kid can live outside the womb, in my opinion. Period. Illegal immigration.
It's alive in the womb.
Well,
Donna.
I know that too, but you know what? You're never going to get that enforced. Illegal immigration costs $113 billion a year. Now, it also hurts mostly African Americans. Let's review this here, because inner city communities pay taxes, right? And then they have to get in line with illegals for getting their same piece of the pie for social programs and jobs. Illegals also compete with those same African Americans that are vying for those lower paying jobs. Illegals, in my opinion, are being coddled and in many cases have apparently, I think, more chances than American citizens because the Democrats need to expand their incredibly shrinking voter base. And that really is the bottom line.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. Hey, Donna, I got something I need to talk about before we go to break.
Barack Obama lately, too? He's starting to kind of
Who cares?
rattle around a little bit.
Who cares? Hey, I did see Jeff Sessions. He was on TV the other night.
He was.
I've been seeing Jeff Sessions a lot.
He was.
And, thank goodness that we put out a bolo for Jeff Sessions because he was found. What we don't know is what he's been doing. We're not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just want to say one thing before you get to what you're going to say, and that is our good friend Tom Fitton at Judicial Watch. Check out their website. They have phenomenal information that basically on Saturdays and Sundays, over the weekend, he does a whole review, and it's amazing because he shows exactly, I mean, God bless him, because if it weren't for Judicial Watch, we wouldn't know half of this stuff. That's all I can say.
Thank goodness for Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch.
One thing he did say, there's a guy named Henry Kerner who is now special counsel to the Office of Special Counsel in the Trump administration.
Fascinating,
And he was
Donna.
nominated and appointed by the Senate, so the deep state is still very much there.
Very fascinating, Donna.
Yep.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to announce something, and that is that Cowboy Logic Radio has been picked up by yet another fantastic and new radio network.
We are looking forward to this.
That's right. Mojo 50, ladies and gentlemen. MOJO 50.
Like Hawaii 5-0, only different.
That's right. Mojo50.com, ladies and gentlemen. This new network will be launched on July 4th, from what I am being told. Great shows like The Doc Thompson Show, The Conservative Cartel, Cowboy Logic Radio, The Denise Simon Experience, and many more are going to be on Mojo 50, and you can find it at mojo50.com. We look forward to reaching more listeners with this new network that we're going to be on. Donna Fiducia, who do we have coming up next?
Was number 2.
I almost said that.
Well, that was got your mojo going, baby.
That's right.
Dr. Marilyn Singleton talking about Obamacare and some alternatives. Then we're going to be talking about Jackie BOATWRIGHT. Boy, she's a real talent, and we're going to see what she is up to. And Michael Cutler talking about immigration, all coming up next on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Come on, take in my dark sunglasses. Come on, take in my, come on, take in my, come on, take in my dark sunglasses. Come on, take in my dark sunglasses. Come on, take in my, come on, take in my, come on, take in my dark sunglasses. Come on, take in my dark sunglasses.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Hi, thank you for listening. My name is Ron Phillips, and I'm the owner and operations manager of Talk America Radio. It is with great pride that I offer you this 24/7 stream of some of the finest talk radio programming in the country, but I need your support. We are a listener-supported network. That means we need your help to continue to offer the quality programming you're hearing right now. If you're able, please visit talkamericaradio.us and click the Support Us button. Your donation will go a long way in helping us continue to share the American voice. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to the Chronicles of Lower Education with your host, the Fed Up Professor. Today's edition is making me queasy and sad and disturbed, but let's see what you think. Last year, two abortion-obsessed advocacy groups, one called URGE, Unite for Reproductive Gender Equality, and All Above all caps, B, period, bold, period, join, period, us, exclamation point, toured college campuses in red states in an effort to persuade the kids of deplorables to, quote, take action and proclaim abortion as a public good. Meanwhile, California's legislature is getting ever closer to passing SB 320, which will force every public college health center in the state to provide non-surgical medical abortions to all students by 2022. Yeah, as I read this bill, I noticed that the latest draft deletes all gender modifiers, so I guess guys can drop by the campus health center for day after pills too after a wild weekend. The bill proclaims, quote, the state has an interest in ensuring that every pregnant person in California can obtain drug-induced abortion as easily and as early in pregnancy as possible. When pregnant young people have abortions, they can stay on track to achieve their educational and other aspirational life plans. Quote, abortion by medication is an essential part of comprehensive sexual and reproductive health and should be accessible on campus. The bill does require that private money only must pay for these abortions, but don't worry, already an anonymous philanthropist has pledged almost $10 million for the project. No mention whatsoever of students taking responsibility for their actions or exercising self-control, facing consequences, that sort of thing. So today, it's drug-induced, no big deal abortions for all the girls and boys. You think this is going to be the end of the left's abortion positivity campus crusade? Waiting for the next shoe to drop, I'm the Fed Up Professor. See you next week.
This is Don NEUEN, co-host of the Drive Time Sit Rep. Join me as I call in to my intel analyst, Denise Simon, for my daily situation report, or Sit Rep, the Drive Time Sit Rep. Check talkamericaradio.us for more information and show times.
Welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don NEUEN, and we're going to focus on healthcare for the next half hour with Dr. Marilyn Singleton. Actually, she is an overachiever because she's a doctor as well as a lawyer, like our good friend Dr. Rhonda Mormon. Man, what did you do? Just go to school for like 20 years. Dr. Singleton is a board-certified anesthesiologist. She's also a board of directors member and president-elect of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, that's AAPS. She graduated from Stanford, earned her medical degree at USCF Medical School. She completed 2 years of surgery residency at USCF, then her anesthesia residency at Harvard's Beth Israel Hospital. And she's just amazing because she has what I call some ideas on how to revamp the Obamacare mess, which is pretty much what it is. Dr. Singleton, welcome to Cowboy Logic Radio.
I am so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about what you feel we can do pretty much to create our own healthcare system.
All right. One of the things that made me even start thinking about this is everybody was coming up with all these solutions to the mess that Obamacare created. And I just thought, let's bring us back to some reality, something that the politicians don't even want to discuss, is our own personal responsibility for our own health. They don't want to be seen as criticizing people or fat shaming or any of this stuff. But realistically, we've got a lot of the problems in our own hands, and we can start taking care of it.
Well, the thing is, we have such a sedentary society right now. Is that the right word? Sedentary? Mm-hmm. They sit. Basically
I'm sitting right now, as a matter of fact, Donna.
And the thing is, 100 years ago, kids were out there milking cows and cleaning the barn and getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning and working 3 hours before they even went to school, you know? And to me, this is all a whole, going from an agrarian to a more, I guess, technical lifestyle. It's just a byproduct of it because we're just not as active.
Well, it's so true, and I'm very amused. There was some restaurant along the highway that has a farmhand breakfast, and it's this massive amount of food. Well, of course, no one's going out to work on the farm after eating it, and apparently working on a farm all day costs 5,000 calories. Well, getting back in your car and continuing to drive for 5 hours doesn't cost anywhere near that, yet you ate the 5,000 calorie farmhand breakfast. And this is just something we're starting to do and don't even realize it. And you pointed out so accurately that we're a sedentary society now. So we've got to change a lot of behaviors. And certainly poor diet is one of them. And I have to laugh. I was sending a young fellow a clip off of YouTube of Marcus Welby because he had never heard of him. And the clip I sent him actually was Marcus Welby telling a patient in exactly these words. He told her, "You're fat." And I don't think we could say that now. People would say it was fat shaming. And it's not. It's trying to make people look at themselves realistically and doing something about it. And sugarcoating it, so to speak, will not change anything, and it won't change anyone's behavior.
You know, it's funny you mention Marcus Welby, because we've been watching Mannix lately. They have these old-time TV networks now. And the lifestyles are so very different in many aspects. Every time Mannix went into a meeting, they would say, "Do you want a cocktail?" And he'd like, "Oh, gin and tonic or something else." I mean, we're talking heavy stuff, and then he gets out and drives away in
a
his
muscle car. Drives away in a muscle car. But, the thing is, I remember, and we're probably, I'm going to assume, close to all being the same age. I'm 57. And, when I was a kid, I would go home from work, and I spent my entire afternoon up until I was forced to come in to either eat dinner or do my homework, but I'm outside playing. And kids now, and adults for that matter, are gravitating in front of televisions, in front of computers, in front of their cell phones, sitting on the couch, and they're really just not outside. Now, Donna and I live on a farm. I don't know if you guys talked about this in the pre-interview, but we live on a farm, and we spend, especially Donna, spends the majority of her day outside working on a farm. Her beautiful figure shows that, quite frankly.
And I'm a lot older than you are, Don, too.
Yes, she is. A lot.
But Marilyn,
a lot older.
But Marilyn, oh, man, he's going to get smacked later. Over the last 25 years, you write, the percentage of Americans with healthy lifestyles, that's exercise, good diet, normal body fat, non-smoking, has dropped from 6.8% down to 3%. I mean, we're really in trouble. And if the government is going to pay for this, quite frankly, I'm sick and tired of paying for this when I try to have a healthy lifestyle.
Well, this is another great big no-no of making people be responsible for their behavior, where there should be a tax or a surtax or something imposed upon people who don't look out for themselves. But then you're called heartless, or don't you have any compassion for them? And of course we do. We're not going to let them die in the streets, and that's not happening to anybody. They will get taken care of along with everybody else. But they should have some consequences for having their own bad behavior. And I just think we haven't pushed that message. We're letting people off the hook.
Now, Don and I have Liberty Health Share, full disclosure, and that is a health sharing ministry. And it's $199 for one person a month, $299 for a family. And again, you do have to have a healthy lifestyle. You do pay a little more if you have a pre-existing condition. In fact, the president of the company that we've spoken to many times has diabetes, so he does pay a little extra. But if you have...
But he also has a health coach that helps him live a healthier lifestyle, given the fact that he's got diabetes, and they do the same thing for people that are maybe overweight or obese, and also in full disclosure, Liberty Health Share is not limited. You don't have to present a letter from your church in order to join. Liberty Health Share is, in my opinion, the one to go to.
Yeah, it's more libertarian in that respect. But the big picture is people who share this expense have a pretty healthy lifestyle. Now, obviously, you can't help it if you get cancer or something like that. But a lot of other things you can do to control yourself as far as having a more healthy lifestyle can be done by individuals.
Exactly. And in fact, there's even some cancers that, well, certainly lung cancer and smoking, but other cancers are related to obesity and certain eating habits with certain colon cancers. So there's a wide range of things that we could help ourselves out. And one of the things that really bothers me is what is drummed into us on the TV ads. The drug companies just relentless in the ads that they put on for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease that comes from smoking. Now, there are some people that have it genetically, and heart failure medicines and diabetes medicines. So it gives one the impression it doesn't matter if I get this because everything can be fixed. And as you pointed out, guess who's going to pay for it?
Well, what you wrote just popped out at me when I was getting ready for this interview. The American Diabetes Association estimates that in 2017, diabetes and its related complications will account for $237 billion in direct medical costs. That is a 26% increase from just 5 years before, 2012. To me, this has Obamacare written all over it. I'm going to get health care. It doesn't matter what I do. The government's going to pay for it.
That's right. And it's a mentality that gets instilled over time, bit by bit, this idea that, oh, it's free. Just like Obamacare said the preventive care was free. Of course it wasn't free. Look what happened to insurance premiums. They doubled, tripled, and next year they're going up another $100 a month. This is just astounding. And all of this is because you're told that everything from soup to nuts will be taken care of. And it's turned out that that's just not true. And no more people are going to the doctor than went to the doctor before. And it only serves to establish that health coverage is not the same as medical care.
We're talking with Dr. Marilyn Singleton. She's also a lawyer, but we won't hold that against you. You can find her at AAPF Online. That's Association of American Physicians Online, aapfonline.org. And also on Twitter at MSingletonMDJD. M. Singleton, MD, And Marilyn, Don has his hand up so he can answer a question here.
Doctor, I have to put my hand up when I do interviews here with Donna Fiducia and when I'm on the air with her because she's a New Jersey Italian that lived her entire life in the mainstream media. And so I have to weasel my way in. Doctor, you're in California. And I'm going to hit you with a question that, we do very little show prep with our guests. We like it that way because it's a candid conversation. So if you don't know this statistic, I sure would understand that. But in California, do you know what percentage or how much money is spent on the health care that is provided for people that are in this country illegally?
Oh, goodness. I can't tell you the exact number. I can tell you that about 1/3 at least of everybody who has health insurance in California is Medicaid, the government-sponsored for the medically needy. And we do pay for illegal aliens, and by federal law, illegal alien emergency care has to be taken care of, not regular care, but in California we do pay for regular care. So I sadly, I can't give you an absolute number. I can give you the number that it would cost if California were to give health care to everyone in the state. It would cost $430 billion a year.
That's pathetic.
Amazing.
What about...
Hold on one second. And again, I'm asking for your thoughts on this. Would you label at this point California as a socialist state?
Oh, yes. It certainly started a while back when it became a one-party state. And there's unfortunately nothing that can be done about it. I don't know if you know the system, which I saw is starting to take off across the country. We have a top two system in our primary,
right?
Which means that you can have two Democrats at the top of the ticket, which has been the case for now ever since they had top two. It's unusual for a Republican to get on the ticket, and the Libertarian Party sued for this because they knew they'd never get on the ticket with the top two.
Right.
And unfortunately, they lost. So top two is here to stay.
Well, we have Arnold Schwarzenegger to thank for a lot of that, if I'm not mistaken, and the fact that our mutual friend and our brother from another mother, Tom Del Beccaro, that's one reason, in my opinion, that he is not actually sitting in the U.S. Senate, because I believe that he would have probably had a good chance of defeating Kamala Harris, but because of the top two system that you guys got, he never had a chance after that mental midget, what's her name, Sanchez.
Yeah, Loretta Sanchez.
Yeah.
But there is a Republican on the ticket for governor. I don't know what kind of a chance he has, so there is hope. Dr. Marilyn Singleton, talk a little bit about 5% of the population using most of the Obamacare money.
This is a number that everybody needs to know, and it points out that most people are healthy and, again, don't need all the quote-unquote free care that comes under Obamacare. So the actual spending of medical care, way, maybe 80% is spent on 5% of the population. And this is mainly for chronic conditions, mental health conditions. And the problem with what Obamacare and some of these other so-called solutions have is that you're changing things for everybody rather than focusing on that 5%. What can we do for that 5%? What can we do for these chronic conditions? How can we get more charity care? How can we get back into the old ways where doctors would take up the slack? They don't now because they're signed up for Medicare, Medicaid, so the government pays. And in fact, it is illegal for a doctor to give free care if he or she is signed up with Medicare or Medicaid or any government program. If you give free care, that is violating the health care fraud and abuse laws, because you'd have to charge the same thing for everybody. And that, to me, is a crying shame.
You know, I grew up in the era of pre-Marcus Welby. And, you know, when I was a kid, I can remember going to our little brick doctor's office that was located off of Peachtree Street in Atlanta. And I knew my doctor. He was an older gentleman. And when I walked into his office, whether I had an earache or tonsil problem or, you know, stepped on a rusty nail, whatever the deal was, I felt comfortable because he was like a grandfather figure for me. The nursing staff, there was no turnover. I knew all the nurses through, you know, and I'm talking from maybe 4th grade to 8th or 9th grade that I saw this doctor. Now, and I'll get a little politically incorrect here, you walk into these doctors' offices that are mostly owned and operated by the big healthcare magnates and hospitals, and all I see, for the most part, are Dr. Damascus in there. I cannot imagine what's going on out in California. And I'd like to ask, first of all, for you to discuss that situation that's taking place where there are many doctors that I have a hard time communicating with, quite frankly. And also, what kind of quality care are these types of, especially foreign doctors, providing to their patients?
I think one of the things that ends up being a problem with truly an inordinate amount of foreign medical doctors is that there's really a different attitude, and it's an attitude that we Americans aren't really used to, sort of a life is cheap attitude. Many are not very touchy-feely, and not really want to sit there and discuss things, and particularly when they get hired by one of the big systems, they're in lockstep to what the big systems, algorithms, and little procedures that they tell you to do and can't do, and they're only authorized to do so much. And the individuality of treating a patient is just out the window, And in California, it's interesting because we have two poles here. We've got some very major, huge health systems that run both Northern and Southern California, two separate systems that a lot of doctors are part of. But we are part of the really growing movement for direct pay care. And with the direct pay care, these are physicians that charge sometimes $20, depending on age, how many kids you have, family, whatever, $20 to $40, maybe $70 a month at most if you have a big family. And they charge that much every month. You get all your care. And in most states where doctors can dispense medicines direct from the office, patients get their medicines at cost plus maybe 5% to buy the bottle to put the medicine in. And so it's an interesting juxtaposition from having all these really huge centers that just troop the doctors through and pay their way in and all this sort of thing just to get them to work in the big office. And then we've got lots and lots of these smaller offices. And this, to me, will be what helps us stay healthy. And it's been shown that people who go to a direct pay practice end up with better chronic disease management, mainly because these doctors spend 45 minutes to an hour with you, almost every visit, if need be. And you can tell them everything, and they don't have the huge electronic medical records where they're sitting in front of the computer screen for the entire visit. And yes, they record your visit and have the notes, and they might have their own system, but you don't have to fear with your privacy. My goodness, in the big systems, imagine how many people are looking at your personal information. It makes me shudder. It makes you not want to open your mouth and tell the doctor anything, thinking how many prying eyes are looking at all your deep, dark secrets.
How does a doctor that's in one of those direct pay offices, how does that doctor make a good living? And I want to qualify that with the fact that I believe doctors should make great livings. I really do. My God, you go to school forever, and then you've got all kinds of malpractice insurance that you have to have, not to mention the fact that you're helping keep people healthy, and a good doctor should be paid a lot of money. Now, the administrators at these places that are not the direct pay offices, quite frankly, I think that ought to change tomorrow or today. But are these direct pay offices and these doctors, are they paid subsidies from someplace? Because you can't make a living on $70 a month coming out of a family of four.
Interestingly, they do make money. Now, they're not subsidized. And this is one of the things that many have completely opted out of Medicare. Some do have the so-called hybrid practice where they'll still take some Medicare patients. What it is, if you have a direct pay practice and a pure direct pay practice, there are two office workers you do not have to have. I don't think people realize how much time is spent on the telephone with insurance companies and Medicare contractors, Medicaid contractors, trying to get pre-authorizations for treatment. Sometimes getting a pre-authorization can keep a person on the telephone. Now, I'm not exaggerating, 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
And one of my colleagues actually, when he went to get a pre-authorization for somebody, actually put the phone on speaker so the patients could hear what he had to go through. And then, for the most part, you don't even ultimately get a doctor on the other end of the line. It's somebody who's using a chart to accept or deny what you want to get pre-authorized for. So you don't have to have anybody calling insurers, period. And you don't have to have a whole nother person in the office who's coordinating benefits and all this sort of thing. So many people, a dermatologist friend of mine in Oregon, she has one person in the office, and the day she does surgery, she hires a nurse. She gets the same one, but one of the nurses from an agency, and they always give her the same one, so she's familiar with the person. So she's not paying that person's salary for 5 days a week. She's only paying her for 1.5 days a week. So there's a lot of economies just in the way the practice works. And so you're talking saving $80,000 and perhaps more, depending on what state you live in, by not having to have those employees. So imagine that you take that would have come out of your money as part of your overhead, and suddenly that's right back in your pocket.
What about groups? I mean, something like the NRA, they're up to this point not allowed to, as a group, purchase health insurance and let people be a part of it. I mean, that makes sense. And Trump is trying to change all this stuff. But what you just mentioned are those types of offices all around the country, and they are allowed under Obamacare?
Yes, they are. And one of the things direct pay practices are pushing for now is a clarification of kind of a weird IRS letter that was written by, I'm sure your buddy and mine, Koskinen, who said that HSAs, health savings accounts, could not be used to pay the fee for direct primary care. So there's new legislation they're pushing to make it clear that that was just his opinion, and there's no IRS rule that actually says that was an opinion letter he wrote,
right,
that you could take your health savings account money and use that to pay your direct primary care fee. So once, even whether it's legislation or getting a clarification of the IRS rule, that will really help a lot of folks out who are paying. And a lot of people, once they join those practices, they tell their friends, and I think direct pay practices are kind of like gym memberships. There's some people that have paid for it, but then they never get anything wrong with them, so they don't go in.
Right.
They're encouraged to go in.
Doctor, we've only got about a minute and a half. How do the listeners find direct pay healthcare doctors? How do they find them?
Okay. Go to selfpaypatient.com, and it has on that website, there'll be a page where it says Find Direct Pay Practice, and it links you to multiple websites, including ours, AAPSonline.org, Self-Pay Patient Frontier, lots of websites that doctors have signed up with, and you can just click on, put what city you're in, and find somebody. Right there in Georgia, you've got my very good friend, Dr. Elena George, right there in Atlanta.
We've had her on the show. She does an awesome job. We've had her on the show before. So it's selfpaypatient.com, selfpaypatient.com. And again, you can find Dr. Marilyn Singleton's work on Twitter at M. Singleton, MD-JD, because she's also a lawyer, M. Singleton, MD-JD, and also at the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, that's AAPFonline.org. And hopefully, I know Donald Trump is still trying to do something about Obamacare to get all these stupid regulations lifted. He's still trying, and hopefully if we can get just one more vote in the Senate, that might actually happen. But Dr. Marilyn Singleton, thank you so much for joining us here on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Thank you.
And coming up next, we'll be talking to Jackie Boatwright. What an amazing story she has to tell. It's coming up next on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
And I'm Don NEUEN, and this is Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts when their hearts were filled with memories. The
Welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don NEUEN. And our very special guest for this segment is a woman by the name of Jackie BOATWRIGHT. And Jackie's making her initial appearance here on Cowboy Logic Radio. She's a local Georgian. And Jackie, let me just give your wonderful biography. You are highly sought after. You're a public speaker and entertainer. You captivate audiences on stage and in the pulpit, too. We'll get to that in a second. But you've graced the pages of national publications such as Jet, Ebony, and Money magazines, showcasing your work as an artist, speaker, and an advocate. You've been on CNN Headline News, the Associated Press, and countless other news and media outlets. And you're a licensed and ordained minister of the gospel for the last 11 years. She's a businesswoman, an entrepreneur. And whether she's writing, directing, producing, acting, advocating, or speaking, Jackie BOATWRIGHT sets the standard for work ethic and giving God her all. That alone, Jackie, says it all. And welcome to Cowboy Logic Radio. Oh, one other thing. A Miss Georgia International. Is there anything you haven't accomplished already in your life? Jackie, welcome to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Donna, thank you so much for having me, as well as you too, Don. You know, I think my mother was very on point, really on point when she named me Jackie. Because I am a Jackie of all trades.
There
sure.
you go.
So I've done a lot of things.
Jackie, one of the things that I wanted to share with you before we got into this interview too far is that I, too, was asked to grace the cover of Jet magazine. I know that sounds something that could be absolutely untrue.
But not Ebony. Or Money magazine.
No,
matter.
I was asked to be on Jet magazine. Actually, that's fake news, everybody. I needed to let you know that right out of the gate. I have never, ever been asked to be on Jet magazine. And that may be shocking to many of you. All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, full disclosure, Jackie BOATWRIGHT is not only a friend of mine, but she's also a client of Star Coaches. And I have known Jackie for a number of years. We've worked together in some of her tours that she's done for her stage play that we're going to talk about. But Jackie, you actually came into my office, I think it was last week or a week and a half ago, to talk about an upcoming run that you needed to do for your stage play. And we had about an hour and a half long conversation. And it ranged from everything to, you know, catching up after not actually seeing each other for a year or so, to getting into politics, to solving all of the problems of the world. But it was a wonderful time, Jackie, and I really enjoyed seeing you. And at that point, I said, we got to get you on the show. We got to talk to you on the radio. And so you have graced our show by appearing this week, and we deeply appreciate that. There's a couple of things that we need to get into with regard to what's going on in your world. Mm-hmm. The first thing, let's touch on the first thing, your play. Your stage play that you've got going on. Tell us a little bit about that and where it's going to be in the upcoming weeks and months.
Okay. Absolutely. This particular production is called No Shells, and it's actually the No Shells, the Legacy Tour. And I wrote this play based off of a book that I wrote that's aimed at helping women build and leave a legacy. So the production is playing this coming June 30th. Which will be this coming Saturday at Georgia Southern University at the Performing Arts Center on the campus of Georgia Southern University in Statesboro, Georgia. And so I'm very excited about it. I always get excited about this production. So, yeah, that's why I was there, to get that tour bus to head to Statesboro for this production.
Tell us a little bit about what no shells actually means. People with no substance, essentially?
Absolutely. Well, when I was going through, I'm a writer. As a matter of fact, my books have been carried by Walmart, Barnes & Noble, million bookstores as well. But I wrote this particular book, Shells of No Substance, when I was going through the ordeal with my son. And it was really that ordeal that helped me understand my purpose and what my life was really all about. At the end of the day, when I went through the ordeal with my son, I found myself, many people know that I'm Mrs. Georgia 2016, but I was also Miss Black America Georgia some years ago as well. But here I was with all of that behind me. I was doing entertainment talk. I've interviewed some of the biggest names in Hollywood. I've interviewed James Brown, Steve Harvey, Chris Rock, Tommy Davis, and all those people have sat on my couch. But in this situation with my son, where I was in a very good financial state and had all these credentials behind me, educated, none of that mattered at the end. The only thing that really sustained me was what I had was my faith in God. That was really it. I had nothing else to lean on because his situation stripped me financially. Nobody cared about my crown or my career or who I'd interviewed and who I'd been around. Nobody cared. It didn't matter. And that's all that I had was what was on the inside of me. So I wrote this book and hoping to help women understand that nobody's going to be concerned about what you're wearing, what you're driving, or what you're living in. What the most important thing is kind of, how did you impact people? What did you do to make the world a better place for other people? And so that's what No Shells is all about. I take a comical spin on everything that happened. It's about 8 friends. All of us are crazy as hell, if I may say so.
A bunch of women sitting around talking, right?
Well, it's a little more than that. Most people, when they think of a play about women, they think it's about men bashing, but in actuality, it's a play about bashing yourself. Women, as a woman, we latch on to so many different ideas. I mean, like, for example, in the play, we've got one character by the name of Lisa whose home is where the play actually centers around. But in her house, we can't sit on the furniture. We can't eat off the dishes. As a matter of fact, she has a picnic table set up in the middle of the dining room because
Hold on, let me guess. Lisa has to be Italian because chances are she's got plastic on the couches and you can't sit on them.
Well, she takes it a whole different level because my grandmother had the plastic on the furniture and my mother had the room that we weren't allowed to go into.
Mine too. No one ever went in the living room. There was plastic on. No one ever went in the darn living room.
I must be completely abnormal here because the house I grew up in, if they bought a couch, it was designed, it was built, it was manufactured, it was marketed, it was sold, and it was purchased by the consumer to sit on it.
Well, see, the same thing, like we eat at the dining room table every day. I never would have eaten at the good dining room table.
Why do you buy a dining room table if you're not going to sit and eat at it?
It's a show. It's for company. It was never for you. It was for other people to come in and go, ooh, look what a nice dining room table that they're never using.
I don't know. Maybe I grew up different, but if you had a chair, you sat in it. If you have a car, Donna, you're like this. Don't drive your car. Don't put so many miles on your car. Why did we buy the car?
And this, this is what's really so odd. It's so funny that you would say that because, and I see that Donna, oh my God, Donna has a little shell in her, based on the play.
No, she really doesn't. She really doesn't. I mean, she's a former Fox News babe, and you ought to see the things this woman does that people would go, oh my God, you touched that? Wow.
But it's really crazy though. I believe Donna. I believe she's probably like me. She's probably a redeemed shell. At some point in our youth, I think that I have been all of the women in the play. At some point, when I first became licensed ordained, I really was too saved, and I found out that I was boring and that you couldn't wear makeup. I was ugly. I was just like mad all the time because I felt I had to walk this fine line, and I was like, God, if I got to do this, I don't think I'm going to be able to keep it up. So he's like, you know what? I never, when I called you to this thing, I never said, hey, go and do this. And you did those things. I just want you to just treat people the way you want to be treated and love, me and love them the way you love yourself, and you're good. And when I latched onto that, I was like, oh, okay, I'm good with this thing. I can do this.
So essentially, you speak from experience, and people can find information at No Shells Stage Play, like a seashell, noshellsstageplay.com, or Jackie BOATWRIGHT, just as it sounds.com. But you speak from experience as far as your No Shells Stage Play and Legacy Tour. Again, it's going to be June 30th. In Statesboro, Georgia, live performance at the Performing Arts Center there in Georgia Southern University. People want information, they can call 912-478-7999. That's 912-478-7999. Or go to JackieBoatWright.com. You can find all that information too. But Jackie, on a more serious note, I want to get to your story about your son Juan. It's tragic. It's something. When you drop your child off at daycare, you expect to see him again that night. Just like people are saying now with school shootings. But in your case, it was just a terrible, tragic accident. Tell us about your son, Juan, back in 2001.
Well, as you stated it was a normal day for me. My child care center was open 7 days a week. I could utilize it 24 hours a day. This particular morning, I was going to go to church with me and my older son, and because my son Juan was much smaller and didn't sit still, and they didn't have like a child care center at the church, I felt that it would be best to take him to the daycare center. And within 2 hours, my whole life changed. I received a phone call on my way back from church to get to the hospital as quickly as I could. He was taken to the medical center at the Fort Gordon military base, which was close to where I lived at that time. And when I arrived there to learn that my son had fallen headfirst into an unattended bucket of mop water containing bleach and other chemicals, and he was basically clinging to life. It was probably, at that point in my life, the most, and I probably still is. I know that it is. I try to rationalize it with my faith, or not necessarily rationalize, but calm it down with my faith. But it was the greatest ordeal that I've ever faced in my life. I wish no mother to have to go through anything close to what I went through with that ordeal. He was just 14 months old, and it was horrible experience.
Did he pass away from this?
No, he did not pass away. He suffered tremendous. He didn't pass away at that time, I should say. He suffered tremendous brain loss injury, and I took care of him for 11 years at home on life support.
Oh,
yeah, I for 11 years, I tell people I didn't leave my home after 8 o'clock for 11 years. And a lot of people probably would, as going through that ordeal, I remember having to be in court with the child care accident and myself. And I pause because I speak very carefully because I've forgiven and I don't want to sound bitter. So if you hear me pause, I'm trying to make sure that I think and I speak in a manner where I'm still in line with my spirit of forgiveness. So pardon me on that. But the judge asked me a question. He asked me, the lawyer asked the judge to ask me a question, and that was, what was the quality of my son's life? And as a mother, and that still cuts me to this day, as a mother, and I'm sitting there with tears streaming down my face, and, this judge is looking at me, and he said, "You heard him. Tell me, what is the quality of this child's life?" And I just remember saying, the quality of his life is measured by the quantity of my love. And you don't have enough zeros that you can put behind any one number that would meet that. And so taking care of him for 11 years was never a burden to me because I'd met so many other mothers who were visiting a gravesite. I, for 11 years, got to visit my son's bedside and sit there and talk to him. And I just, in my mind, said he's going to be forever my newborn. And when you have a newborn baby, I'm married to an OB, when you have a newborn baby, they can't do anything for themselves. You have to get up through the night. And so that's the way that I saw that, and that's the way that I embraced that. And I loved him, and I called him my baby for 11 years until God spoke and called him home.
Wow.
I got to say something, Jackie. I've known you for a number of years, and the first time that you and I met, I believe we discussed this.
Yeah.
And I gotta say that I cannot imagine the amount of strength that it takes for a mother to go through that. I can't imagine that. And I'm a father. I've got 2 wonderful boys. I can't imagine the strength. And I know that your answer is going to be you found that strength through your faith, as I would have to find my strength. But for someone that has not had to endure that type of unimaginable situation, I don't know where you found the strength. I really don't.
As I told Don, whatever you're imagining right now, you magnify that or multiply that by 1,000, and you may hit the emotional roller coaster that I was on. But because I'm a strong believer, we really don't know how our lives are going to end up. And I don't know. I know that my son was 14 months old. We stayed in the hospital in ICU for 2 months, and I know they told me that he would be dead by age 2. So he was 16 months coming out of the hospital. So by age 2, so you know how many months they had given him to live. But I just refused to think in that manner. So I came home with the mindset of doing everything for him that I would do if this had not happened to him. So I went shopping, I bought clothes, I bought food, and we did everything living. We lived, we laughed, we had a lot of fun in our home. I read stories to him. I made sure that he was educated. So, the teachers came to our home. They treated him just as though none of this had happened to him. And I think that because, and I don't want to get, religious or whatever, but I do believe the Bible says that, God knows us better than we know ourselves. And a lot of mothers that I encountered, that it wasn't because they were not as strong as me. It's just our mental capacities to handle certain things are different. And sometimes God has to say to the parent, okay, I promised you that I would not put any more on you than you can bear. I know this situation is going to be a little much for you, so I'm going to take care of them in heaven's hospital, or bring them here in heaven. They're going to be completely whole. But, this person over here, like Jackie, you're this type of person where you're going to take this thing and you're going to try to make change and make it better for other people because that's your nature. So I'm going to let you deal with this situation a little longer. Just know that I'm still there with you. You're going to be comfortable in this situation. You're not going to want for anything, which I didn't. He says, you're going to be okay, but I need for you now to take this around the world and make sure that other children who enter the child care system are a whole lot safer. And so I think that he knew that I would be the person that would say, wait a minute, let me look at the totality of this thing and how can I protect other children? And that is why I think I was given the longer assignment to care for him as opposed to parents who may not have, just because of my craziness, I guess.
Well, the mental angle that you're taking to just say, well, I'm going to take care of a newborn for however long it is. I mean, I guess it's just really admirable how you can bring yourself to do that. And like you say, in an instant, your whole life changed. And at the time, there was no law in Georgia that required daycare centers to have insurance, any liability insurance, state licenses, or anything like that. So now it is a law in Georgia, correct? And I believe they're trying to get the Anthony Dewan BOATWRIGHT Foundation. I guess in his name, they're looking to have some of this currently passed into the Senate as well.
Absolutely. The Georgia legislation I wrote, when I approached the Georgia General Assembly, they had no idea that this law didn't exist. Because I'm saying my plumber had to be licensed, insured, and bonded. The people that worked on my home was licensed, insured, and bonded. The people that cut my grass is licensed, insured, and bonded. But you are issuing a license to child care providers, and you are not requiring them to have liability insurance. So if something adverse happens, then they're not held accountable. So as it was with me. And I mean, when it was found out, it was basically like, whoa, are you serious? So they, of course, wanted to impact change, but then we had a group of people out there that actually blamed me for utilizing daycare. They said it was all my fault for, that I should have been at home, taking care of my child. But I was a single parent at the time, so I'm like, wait a minute, I've got to, pay, for mortgage and food and clothing, and I'm doing what millions of parents around our country do every day. We utilize daycare, and I'm a strong supporter of daycare, but I just don't think that it should be done haphazardly. And I think that if you are going to do it, you should consider the fact that you have lives that are entrusted in your hands. And when we drop our children off, we're not dropping them off for you to go to lunch or to go to the bathroom. If you go, take my baby in the bathroom with you. If you eat, put them on your hip, fix a sandwich with them in your hand. We're just expecting you to watch them just that closely, So when I got the law passed in Georgia, I went to the state of Virginia. I'm an alum of Liberty University and the University of Maryland. They, too, didn't have a law that protected children. My research revealed there are 42 states in our country that don't require child daycare centers to carry liability insurance. From there, I went straight to D.C., and I persuaded the federal government of their involvement, because I feel that sometimes if you look at it the way it is, it's like double dipping. I'm paying for my child to attend daycare out of my hard work earned dollar. The government is giving child care centers vouchers for children to attend, but you are not holding the child care center accountable. So my center was uninsured. She had no assets. They came in and said, well, you just shut down. The police, of course, wanted to file charges and send her to jail, but I don't think that she purposely did it. So, and I'm thinking, okay, she has children. I didn't want her to go to jail to leave her children, because it's a cycle. Children left without parents is just the same thing. So it was really just a situation where I felt the best thing to do was, okay, if you're not going to enforce them to have liability insurance, then you do to every other parent what you didn't do to me, and that is you make the child care center tell the parent that they don't have liability insurance. You make the child care center post on the wall that they don't have liability insurance. And then that way, the parent that comes after me will have the opportunity to do something I didn't do, and that's make an informed decision based on having all of the facts of who I'm doing business with. And daycare is a business, and it's in the business of protecting children. So that is what Juan's Law is about. It's about now disclosure, posting, and signing that the parent is aware that they're leaving their child in an uninsured child care center.
Jackie, we only have a couple minutes left. Tell us about your wonderfulproducts.com, obviously JUAN, wonderfulproducts.com.
Wonderful Products have started out as 3 simple products: a shampoo, a hair serum, and a conditioner for my son, because I wanted everything on him to be perfect, and I could not find anything on the market that was wholesome enough for him. So now it's grown into a brand of 80 or more products in my line, carried throughout stores throughout the Atlanta area, shipped all over the world. But it consists of hair and skincare products, new anti-aging care line. I realized I'm getting older, so I started.
I need that too.
I'm going to have to send you some of my stuff.
We all need that stuff. All right, Jackie, we have only a minute left. So, again, live performances in Statesboro, Georgia, at Georgia Southern University. Call 912-478-7999 for more info. That's 912-478-7999. But Jackie Boatwright has this great play, the No Shells stage play. We all know shells that belong on that stage, that's for sure. And you can find all the information at noshellsstageplay.com. JackieBoatwright.com. And Jackie, we have to have you back on. You're so talented. Miss Georgia International, Mrs. Georgia 2016, Miss Black America Georgia. And obviously you've seen her on many of the TV shows and the channels. You've seen her on the cover of Jet, Ebony, and Money magazine, showcasing your work as an artist, speaker, and advocate. Jackie, God bless you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Thank you, Donna, for having me. It was a total awesome opportunity to share my life and my journey with you both.
We agree. And coming up next, Michael Cutler. He is the immigration go-to guy. We'll be talking to him next on Cowboy Logic Radio.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Let me talk to you, black people. When you vote for blacks and put them in office under the banner of the Democrat Party, please explain to me what black people get as a result. This was not a nap that we have been taking. We are in a coma. You know what the interesting thing about pensions is? That's today's money given to people who ain't doing nothing for you today. Get off that black Democrat tit that they've been sucking on. Your country is being stolen from you, and the promise is being stolen from your children, and they're telling you it's all right while the rest of the world is trying to lap us. Well, why are we doing so poorly? 2 words: teachers' unions. Are you kidding me?
Black Man Thinking, Monday nights, 9 p.m.
This is Denise Simon. 18 hours a day, I live in a world as an intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. What I find is reprehensible. What I find is terrifying. What I find is treasonous. 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 The mainstream media has completely failed the American people. 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 Join me for the Denise Simon Experience every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
About to join Don NEUEN, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, and Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience, for a weekly situation report, or SITREP. 18 hours a day, Denise Simon lives her life as an intel analyst. 18 hours a day, Don NEUEN lives his life in the world of rock and roll. 1 hour each day, NEUEN receives a daily SITREP from Simon. Welcome to the Drive Time Situation Report. Fasten your seatbelt. You're now in Don NEUEN's car, and he is calling in for his SITREP.
Check the Talk America Radio schedules for showtimes at talkamericaradio.us. Welcome back to Cowboy Logic Radio. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don NEUEN, who since the first segment has actually kind of been subdued.
I'm behaving, Don. I'm pretending like I'm on NPR.
But you don't have to, because we have Michael Cutler coming up next.
Oh, my gosh. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Michael Cutler, and I'm Don NEUEN. Back to you, Donna.
Michael Cutler is the kind of guest you have where you, if you're tired, you just introduce him and then just kind of sit back for 30 minutes and let him take the wheel, because that's pretty much what it is. 30 years distinguished career with the Drug Enforcement Task Force, wrote for Laura Ingram's Life Zet. He testified before Congress, the 9/11 Commission. You've seen him on all the news channels as well, lately of NRA TV and One America News with Graham Ledger, the Daily Ledger. We're big fans. You can also read his stuff on The Social Contract. Again, michaelcutler.net, David Horowitz Freedom Center, frontpagemag.com. And again, welcome back to Cowboy.
And he has his own radio show.
The Michael Cutler Hour.
Yeah, the Michael Cutler Hour.
Aptly
Welcome
named.
to Cowboy Logic Radio, my friend.
Lady and gentlemen, thank you so much for having me. It's always great joining you.
There's probably not much that we can talk about. The borders are all secure. All 52
Right.
borders are secure. All international airports are now secure.
So goodbye, Mike. We don't need to talk to you.
We can relax, right, Mike?
Right. We can do a 10-second interview. I could say have a nice weekend, and then I can go off and get a second cup of coffee.
There you go.
If only that were true.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight on Cowboy Logic Radio. It's been a real
Thank you
thrill.
and good night. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So, Mike, that was all fake news. What is really happening, my friend?
Bedlam. Absolute anarchy and bedlam. You know, I wrote an article a long time ago, and I said that with this business of immigration, it was putting us at the top of the very slippery slope to anarchy. Are we there yet? I think we're close.
Getting there.
Look, let's begin by saying something that needs to be said. If you look at the 9/11 Commission report, it was very clear that border security is national security. The preface of the 9/11 Commission staff report starts out by saying that border security has never been a component of national security policy, but that they believe, for reasons that they discuss in the following pages of that separate report, 9/11 and terrorist travel, that it must be made one, a cornerstone of national security policy. National security policy, and we have politicians from both parties doing everything in their power to disrupt border security, to take the immigration system, turn it inside out and upside down. This is anarchy created by our own government. You've never had more police officers shot than we've been witnessing of late. We have a major problem with drug addiction in America, so of course the obvious reaction is to legalize marijuana, a gateway drug. Think about that. We now have this fake news about the so-called unaccompanied minors, the children being separated from their families, the outrageous unbelievable comparison with that to the Holocaust. I'm Jewish. I was named for my grandmother who was slaughtered in Poland because of our religion. And you have people like Joe Scarborough. I just did another radio interview where they played a segment of that lunatic talking about the kids being taken to the showers. I kid you not. I was in such a state of rage. I'm still sputtering.
Absolutely.
Look,
I mean, that's just reprehensible. He is such a jerk. So tell us about what you think then of this past week about the Goodlatte and Ryan supposed bills to fix all this.
Okay. Well, first of all, they wouldn't fix all this. Okay.
We know that.
Let's understand that both bills are terrible. One stinks worse than the other. First of all, border security isn't only the Mexican border. We've again become fixated on the border and the wall and the wall and the border. So let me ask you guys a hypothetical question. Let's say we build Donald Trump's wall, but make it bigger than he could have hoped for. It's 50 feet tall. It's a triple wall topped with concertina wire through which we run 1 million volts of electricity. I can put something in your pocket. You know the old joke, if you give me a 20-foot wall, I'll bring a 25-foot ladder. You don't even need a ladder. I can put a device in your pocket that makes that border wall meaningless. Do you know what that device is?
No.
The green card.
Ah. See, I thought we could put solar panels on the wall so when they hit it, it's kind of like a bug going into a bug
That's
zapper.
an excellent point, Mike. That's an excellent point.
So understand that when you give someone a green card, when you give somebody U.S. citizenship, you are handing them the keys to the kingdom. How many times have we heard about people who have expensive cars in these great expensive neighborhoods, and what do the people steal from the cars? Not the car, just the garage door opener. Mm-hmm. Right? The guy with the Jag, the guy with the Mercedes, the guy with the Maserati. He comes back, he finds the window broken, or the car was jimmied open, and what's missing? The garage door opener. Why in the world would you steal a garage door opener? Because the bad guys wait outside the house. When the family goes off to work, they open the garage door, and they make entry into the house, and no one sees a break-in.
So it's essentially the green card. It's amazing. That's a great analogy.
You see? Think about the people that tell you when you park your car in a garage where you have a parking attendant, never leave the house key. Why? Because there have been burglars who got jobs working in these parking garages. They duplicate the house key. They have your license plate number. They run the tag. They get the address. And again, they wait for the homeowner to leave, and they walk through the front door. The people that provide lawful status to aliens should be thought of as America's locksmiths, USCIS, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. Both the Goodlatte bill and the Ryan bill would provide hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of illegal aliens with the key to America's front door, lawful status. Without the capacity, think of this, ladies and gentlemen, no interviews, no field investigations. They could be as old as 35, 36 years of age. Obama created DACA as a subterfuge. They could not get comprehensive immigration reform passed. In fact, back then I had testified before 3 House hearings and 1 Senate hearing, and I wrote an op-ed for the Washington Times 11 years ago wherein I said they should refer to comprehensive reform as the Terrorist Assistance and Facilitation Act for those very same reasons. Then Senator Jeff Sessions liked it so much he quoted me on 3 separate days during the floor debate on comprehensive reform, and it was defeated. But unlike most dirtbag politicians, forgive the redundancy, he did not plagiarize me. He did it with attribution and then sent me a certificate to commemorate it. If you go online today and put in Jeff Sessions, comprehensive reform, and the Terrorist Assistance and Facilitation Act, you will see where a bunch of websites by the anarchists accuse Sessions of defeating comprehensive reform by using that phrase during the debates. What do you think of that?
I'd like him to do that now. I'd like him to stand up now and do something.
They need to go back to the 9/11 Commission and what they warned. And if you look at what the Commission warned about, immigration fraud, not the Mexican border, entry at airport, use of false identity documents. Think of the cities like New York providing ID to illegal aliens who cannot, or perhaps more likely don't want to, provide reliable evidence as to their true identities. There is no way of knowing how long these aliens have been here. You could have an alien enter the United States next year, and if this program, God forbid, is up and running to legalize them, they could claim to have been here for 23 years, 6 days, and 4 hours, and nobody would be able to determine otherwise because there's no interviews, there's no field investigations, and when you enter by running the border, you're not entering undocumented. This is not about being politically correct. It's Orwellian. It's about spewing lies and propaganda to alter understandings of an issue. Both parties are all in. They are globalists. That's why Trump has such a problem with both parties. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, George Soros, the Koch brothers on the other side are all standing shoulder to shoulder, and there's no air to be seen between them. So this is what we're looking at. The Ryan bill would legalize aliens who could claim that they would have qualified. The Goodlatte bill said, no, they have to have already been in the program. So there I give Goodlatte 1 point, because it's not quite as bad as opening it up, and then we hear 3 million aliens. No, it could be 30 million. We don't know how many. And once you start the program, you can't get the boat back to the harbor. You can't say, well, we've just legalized 3 million. I guarantee you there will be lawsuits. And I have to tell you, as a matter of fairness, I would say that if you did it, you can't turn it off. Because you don't end the line and say, okay, after you put up the sign, line closed, like we do in the supermarket. So the line will keep on coming. The numbers will keep on coming. More people will flood the border, not just the Mexican border, the Canadian border. They will come in along our 95,000 miles of coastline, and they will get in, and they will say, I've been here for 22 years, and they will all get lawful status. The Ryan bill would allow them to then bring in all of their extended family. He only wants to modify family reunification. The Goodlatte bill wants to change that, but the Goodlatte bill provides for 55,000 additional high-tech workers every year. So with all of the talk about that, and by the way, I understand what the damage is. If you look at the problem of people in foster care, with all the screaming about a few thousand children of alien children who are here, and many of them were brought here, by the way, with smugglers or by smugglers, not by their parents. Smugglers are among the most vicious and sociopathic criminals I encountered in my 30-year career. When I arrested women who were smuggled into the United States, almost all of them told me that they began the journey 3 months before leaving home by taking birth control pills. You know why? They anticipated being gang raped, and they were. So if you leave your child in the custody of an alien smuggler, I believe you should be criminally prosecuted for endangering the welfare of the child. In New York State, they have a law called Leandra's Law. Leandra was a little girl, this happened about 10 years ago, who was being driven somewhere by her mother's friend with a bunch of other kids in an SUV. The woman was drunk. She crashed the vehicle. Leandra was killed. So they passed Leandra's Law that says if you drive drunk and you injure a child under the age of 16, you go to jail for 15 years. Kill a child, you go to jail for 25 years. How many times have we heard about parents who kill their children? They're crazy, they're on drugs, they're schizophrenic. And people say, my God, why didn't they take those children out of that dangerous environment? And child welfare does. We have hundreds of thousands of American and lawful immigrant children right now, as you're listening to this program, in foster care. Their parents are in jail. And the reason for zero tolerance is to stop the flood of illegals into the country so that our border has integrity. Unfortunately, our politicians don't have integrity, and that's why immigration has no integrity. So the goal is to stop the crimes by punishing the people who commit the crime. When we had the problem on Queens Boulevard in New York City where people were getting mowed down by speeding cars, the one thing that the mayor did in New York that I agree with is his zero tolerance for speeders. They're putting up cameras. I don't like the cameras, but I understand what he's trying to do. And by not just posting signs, but by actually putting police cars next to radar units and catching anyone who would speed, we went from carnage where at least once a week people, sometimes families, were mowed down by these idiot drivers. God knows how many were illegal aliens with no licenses. There hasn't been a fatality on Queens Boulevard in years since they posted police officers with radar units on that avenue. Enforcement works. It's deterrence through enforcement. That's what the president and that's what the attorney general is trying to do. But when you prosecute people, you separate the children from the person who's under arrest. You take away the adult in handcuffs. You're not going to leave an 8-year-old child in an apartment by himself or herself. When we did major raids, child welfare accompanied us. They were at the end of the caravan. Why? Because we had intel that there were 3 kids in the apartment under the age of 12. So what was child welfare doing? Scooping up the kids and bringing them to foster care so they could be looked after. It's common sense. It's humane. It's what the law requires. So if you're going to prosecute people for unlawful entry, and by the way, talking about unlawful entry, Chuck Schumer has said that when you trespass on critical infrastructure or national landmarks, you should go to jail for 5 years. He proposed a federal law, 5-year imprisonment for trespassing, because he was upset and said it creates a danger. He even talked about a 16-year-old airheaded kid who climbed the World Trade Center when it was under construction to take a selfie. These people should be in jail for 5 years, he said. Less time than that, you're not going to stop them. We have to deter them. However, according to Schumer and his friends like Nancy Pelosi, if you trespass on America, you're entitled to citizenship. Lunacy. So think of how many kids today are in foster care in America. Their parents are in jail. Some of them committed crimes because they got hooked on drugs, so they're in jail for drug crimes. They're in jail because they committed crimes to get the money to buy the drugs. Where are most of the drugs coming? Across the U.S.-Mexican border. Open borders lead to more drugs, leads to more crimes, leads to more American and lawful immigrant children winding up in foster care. Some people lose their kids because they become homeless. How do they become homeless? Well, they lose their jobs to foreign workers that we're enticing to come to America. Not just illegal alien jobs, the fundamental jobs for people with not much in the way of formal education, but even the high-tech jobs. People that have had jobs as computer programmers losing those jobs and finding that no other company would hire them because the goal is to replace American workers with foreign workers. Alan Greenspan testified for Chuck Schumer back on April 30th, 2009, about the need to flood America with H-1B visas, something that Bill Gates wants. Why? Because he said if we could make Americans compete with foreign workers, the high-tech workers would lose part or all of the wage premium. Great way to discuss a middle-class wage. They'd lose their wage premium so you could reduce wage inequality between Americans with skills and those with lesser skills. So we have high-tech workers becoming homeless in some cases. When you're homeless, guess what happens? They take your children from you. Where has the Catholic Church and other religious organizations been to scream about those families that are separated through no fault or their own? Where is the news media to not talk about the hundreds of thousands of American and lawful immigrant children who are in foster care in America? The crisis on the border is a crisis that was designed and built by American politicians. The immigration system, I will tell you this unequivocally, is not broken. This is a failure by design. The immigration system has become the most efficient delivery system in the history of the United States government. It eclipses FedEx and UPS. And what does it deliver? An unlimited supply of foreign, cheap, exploitable labor. Exploitation is not compassion, folks. An unlimited supply of foreign students with all the concern about China and the trade war and the theft of intellectual property here in the United States. Last year, we admitted 152,000 Chinese STEM students, science, technology, engineering, math. They hack our computers as frequently as Russia and Iran, and we have trained their programmers. They're building their military. We have trained their engineers, and these folks all get jobs in American companies for practical training, displacing more Americans, and then they commit acts of espionage as frequently as a hummingbird beats its wings. And what do we keep doing? Bringing in more Chinese students. What does this do? It destroys opportunities for American children. We're also bringing in an unlimited supply of foreign tourists. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, big advocate for the visa waiver program expansions. And this is most important for members of Congress. We're bringing in a virtually limitless supply of clientele for immigration lawyers. Bob Goodlatte, folks, is an immigration lawyer, and he's not alone. Zoe Lofgren, who used to be the ranking Democrat on the Immigration Subcommittee, is an immigration lawyer. So understand the problem. There is nothing in the Goodlatte bill or the Ryan bill that would add a single new ICE agent to the workforce. We have about 6,000 ICE agents right now. More than half are doing customs work. Remember, ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The agency was designed as part of DHS to de-emphasize, incredibly, de-emphasize border security and immigration law enforcement. John Hostetler, who had been the chairman of the Immigration Subcommittee, I testified for John at least 8 times, conservative Republican, complained bitterly how the Bush administration cobbled together DHS in such a way where immigration law enforcement suffered tremendously, leaving America and Americans vulnerable to terrorists. The Homeland Security Act, which created DHS, said we should emphasize immigration law enforcement. George W. came along and went in the opposite direction, so I'm not shocked that his brother Jeb said that illegal immigration was an act of love. Of course, Jeb was looking for love in all the wrong places. But This is all failure by design. And when they tell you that they're going to fix the problem, these characters fix the problem, you know what that's the equivalent of, Donna? It's the equivalent of someone telling you that if you find a hole in the bottom of your boat, quickly take out the drill and drill lots more holes to let the water out. They love what they're getting, and they want to make the process go faster. What do you think of that assessment?
All right. Hold on, Mike. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the absolutely brilliant Michael Cutler, our dear friend, and also, in our opinion, the authority on all things immigration. This is our go-to guy for this. Mike, I've got a couple of quick questions for you.
Okay.
Number one, who can the listeners follow in the House and the Senate that, in your opinion, are doing good work? Because we know clearly there's a lot of them that are doing bad work. Who can the listeners follow that are actually, in your opinion, doing good work with regard to immigration?
Okay, let's start with my friend Lou Barletta, who's running for the U.S. Senate. He's so fed up with the House that he's leaving the House. He's running for the Senate seat in Pennsylvania. He was the mayor of a town called Hazleton in Pennsylvania, and when a Dominican drug gang set up shop in his town and started killing people in this once quiet, bucolic town, it's a beautiful city. It was a mining town way, way back. The Bush administration refused to help him, so he became the first mayor to enact immigration ordinances against illegal immigration. He got sued, not surprisingly, by the ACLU. I was his final witness at the trial. He became a member of the House of Representatives, feels so stymied that he's now running for the U.S. Senate. So Lou Barletta from Pennsylvania, good guy. Paul Gosar, member of Congress from Arizona, another good guy. In fact, both of those guys, believe it or not, have given me their private cell phone numbers. So when I want to talk to them, I don't go through the impossible barricade of their staffers. I pick up the phone and I say, hi, this is Mike, and we have whatever conversation we're going to have. Chuck Grassley, a good guy. Steve King gets a little bit strident and gets over his skis sometimes, but absolutely a good guy. And I want you to realize something. I'm a registered Democrat. All of the names I have mentioned to you are Republicans. This is not, as you said very properly, Donna, a left-right issue, but a right-wrong issue. And by the way, if the Democrats were truly Democrats, they should look to Barbara Jordan, the late, great Barbara Jordan, the black, liberal, Democrat congresswoman from Houston, I believe she was from Houston, but definitely from Texas. Her commission, the Jordan Commission, basically stated everything that I'm talking about. The greatest harm being done to American blacks living in poverty is illegal immigration, a lack of border security. If you look at the crime, if you look at the flood of drugs, if you look at the flood of criminals, the vulnerabilities to terrorists, all of those exacerbated by multiple failures of the immigration system. How much clearer can I make it?
No, you really can. And it's really scary. What did you refer to this Goodlatte and Ryan Bill as?
Two stinking turds.
That's not what you said before we came on the air. You said smoldering turds. I love it.
Okay. Yes, and I don't pull punches.
Absolutely not. So, to me, it's so frustrating because you just have lawmakers, which is an oxymoron, not following the law. They're not enforcing the law. Exactly.
They're lawless lawmakers.
So what do we do?
I mean think about that.
You know, what, in your opinion right now, where do we go from here?
Well, if we don't straighten this out, it will envelop us. You know, I was not a big fan of Ronald Reagan. And by the way, whatever happened to the notion that we could have our disagreements without fearing for our safety? This is America. First Amendment is the cornerstone for any democracy. When you're afraid to speak your mind, there's a big problem. But Ronald Reagan got a number of things right, got a number of things wrong. The first amnesty, the fact that he made border security the issue and ignored interior enforcement, the fact that he included a confidentiality provision in the amnesty of '86. So as an immigration agent, I could not share amnesty information with the FBI or any other law enforcement agency under the penalty of 5 years in jail. So it opened the door to massive fraud. One of those players, in fact, Mahmoud Abu Alima, got agricultural amnesty, a provision authored by Chuck Schumer, by the way, was the ringleader of the '93 bombing. You know, he claimed he had picked beans in Florida when in reality the only thing he ever planted was a bomb in the garage of the World Trade Center. So, pardon me. So the issue for all of us is to understand that if we can't have conversations, as Ronald Reagan warned us, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. an inability to speak our minds and have debate. You know, I've done debates all over the country. My degree was in communications arts and sciences. I call it my BA and BS. I went to Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism. I testified before the Columbia University Law School and Chapman Law School and NYU and you name it. They've shut down debate.
But you know what, Mike, to that end, we only have a couple of minutes left. To that end, look at the Time magazine cover. It's now they're still defending it, even though it's total yellow journalism. And these kids are maybe 6 years old. You've got the mainstream media saying, oh, they're being ripped from their mother's breasts. The youngest they are is 6. Most of them are 12 to 17. It's ripe for MS-13. And I don't think Stormy Daniels now going down to the border is going to help either.
No, but here's the thing. Well, she's just trying to, get back in the news again.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, look, what won't she do for publicity? What more do I have to say? But here's the other issue, though. There was a picture, and CBS is covering it this morning, of a young girl, I believe it was, crying hysterically, and that became the cover photo. It turned out that she wasn't taken from her mother.
Right. Time magazine.
She was with the mother.
Yep.
And they're defending it, saying, well, but it epitomizes the issue. Yes, a burning building epitomizes the issue, but maybe the building they're talking about didn't even have a fire. So either the photograph was taken on the scene of the situation, or it's bogus.
No, the real story behind this Time magazine thing actually is that the father of this, little girl and the wife said they left without telling him. There's 3 other kids she has back in Honduras or wherever she is. And this is not her first time offense. She's come across the border a couple times. This is out of control, but it's just insane. Mike, we got 30 seconds. You might want to wrap it up with one last thought.
Sure, democracy is not a spectator sport. If you are a parent, if you're a grandparent, your children need you to get involved in the process. America's futures and their futures hang in the balance. Please go to my website. It's michaelcutler.net. By the way, if you know of opportunities to help me get the word out, please do become part of my Bucket Brigade of Truth. And I got to tell you guys, you do a great job of telling the truth. Keep it up, and I'll be glad to join you anytime you want me to be on your show.
And you can hear his show, The Michael Cutler Hour, on our network as well. And, of course, you've seen him recently on NRA TV, One America News, michaelcutler.net, and also frontpagemag.com. You can see all his stuff.
And the social contract.
And the social contract. Yep, that was the last thing I had written down to say. Michael Cutler, thank you so much. I like to close the show with a saying. This one from Albert Einstein. I think it's so apropos. I fear the day that technology will surpass human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots. There you go. All right. Everybody have a great week. And in the meantime, God bless America.
Out on the web at cowboylogic.us.